Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to another video. We're going to be reading chapter 2 and 3, maybe chapter 4 in our new book, Don't Believe Everything You Think, written by Joseph Nguyen. Chapter 2 is titled The Root Cause of Suffering. And we're going to start out with a quote. One who looks around him is intelligent. One who looks within him is wise. And that is a quote from Matt Shona Dilwayu. I'll show you because I hate butchering names. I hate it more than anything. Right there. Okay. I really know I said that last name wrong for sure. Okay. We live in a world of thought, not reality. Sydney Banks once said, "Thought is not reality, yet it is through thought that our realities are created." Each of us lives through our own perceptions of the world, which are vastly different from the person right next to us. An example of this is that you could be sitting in a coffee shop having a quarter-life existential crisis, completely stressed out of your mind about how you have no idea what you're doing with your life, when it seems like everyone else has theirs together, while the person next to you is happily enjoying their freshly brewed drink while peacefully people watching. You are both in the same coffee shop, smelling the same aroma, surrounded by the same strangers. But how the world looks to both of you couldn't be more different. Many of us go through the same events or are in the exact location at the same time, yet are having completely different experiences of the world. Here's another example of how we live in a world of thought and not reality. If you walk up to 100 different people and ask each of them what money means to them, how many different answers do you think you'll get? Close to 100 different answers. Money is technically the same thing, but it means something different to each person. Money could mean time, freedom, opportunity, security, and peace of mind, or it could mean evil, greed, and the reason why people commit crimes. For now, I'm not going to get into which one is right or wrong. Hint, there is no right or wrong answer, but that's a different chapter. Another illustration of this concept is as follows. If you survey 100 different people and ask each of them what they think of our current president, how many different answers do you think you'll get? That's really funny because I was actually just thinking about that earlier. I was thinking, there really is no wrong or right. It is about perception and perspective. We all inherently have the same goal in mind for what we would like as a society. We would like peace. We would like no war. We would like for any kind of violence to stop. We would like everybody to get along, but we all have, and we would like the end of corruption. We would like all of these things and our rights and our freedom, but we have a different idea of what modalities or what plans to put in place in order to get to the end result. So there really is no one right or wrong answer, regardless of how you feel. It is your perspective, your perception, and your truth. And how you're looking at something is going to be completely different from how another person may be looking at something. Even somebody who may have voted for the same person may have a totally different perspective or idea of why they came to that decision, but they still came to the same decision. So it's kind of all intertwined. It's just that oftentimes we have different ideas of how to get to that goal. All right. Or what our idea of what that goal looks like, the end result, what that kind of a world looks like for us looks differently for everybody. All right. Even though it is the same person we're talking about, we will get 100 different answers because most people live in their own thoughts and perceptions of the world. The meaning or thinking we give an event determines how we ultimately feel about it. That meaning or thinking is the filter through which we see life from then on. Because of this, we live through a perception of reality, not in reality itself. Reality is that the event happened with no meaning, thinking, or interpretation of it. Any meaning or thinking we give the event is on us. That is how our perception of reality is created. This is how our experience of life is created from the inside out. It's not about the event that happens in our lives, but our interpretation of these events, which causes us to feel good or bad about something. This is how people in third world countries can be happier than people in first world countries. And people in first world countries can be more miserable than people in third world countries. Our feelings do not come from external events, but from our own thinking about the events. Therefore, we can only ever feel what we are thinking. Let's hypothetically say that you really hate your job and it causes you an enormous amount of stress, anxiety, and frustration. It pains you even to set foot in the building where you work, and just thinking about your job makes you furious. When you're thinking about your job, you're just sitting on a sofa with your family watching a TV show together, but you are fuming at the thought of your job. Everyone else is having a good time except you. At this moment, everyone else in your family is having a different experience of life than you, even though the same event is happening. Just the thought of work created a whole different perception of reality, even though you're not physically at work. If it were true that external events cause us to feel the way we feel inside, then you should be a happy camper in your living room, watching a funny TV show with your family every single time you do this activity. But that's not the case. Now, you may be saying that you're only feeling this way because an external event, your job, is causing you to feel stressed and anxious. To that, I'll ask the question, is it absolutely true that every single person feels the exact same way about the job they're working in? Two different people can be doing the same job, but will have completely different experiences. It can be the most amazing experience and a dream job for one person, but be another person's worst nightmare and a living hell. The only difference between one person and the other is how they think about their job, which determines how they ultimately feel about it. Let's return to your original scenario of hypothetically hating your job. Remember how much stress, anxiety, and frustration it causes you when you think about it? Let's do a quick thought experiment about that by answering the question below. Who would you be without the thought that you hated your job? Take 1 minute to see what comes up for you, and don't move on until you do that. So the question again is, who would you be without the thought that you hated your job? The thought. If you don't overthink it and truly let the answers surface from within you, without that thought, you will most likely feel happy, peaceful, free, and light. Without our usual thinking about a particular event or thing, our experience of it completely alters. This is how we live in a world of thought, not reality, and how our perception of reality is created from the inside out through our own thinking. With this new understanding, you've just uncovered the cause of all our human psychological suffering. The root cause of our suffering is our own thinking. That's profound and very true. Before you throw this book across the room and light it on fire, I'm not saying that this is all in our heads and it isn't real. Our perception of reality is very real. We will feel what we think, and our feelings are real. That is completely undeniable. However, our thinking will look like an inevitable, unchangeable reality until we begin seeing how our reality is created. If we know that we can only ever feel what we are thinking, then we can change our feelings by changing our thinking. Thus, we can change our experience of life by knowing that it comes from our own thinking. And if that is true, then we are ever only one thought away from experiencing something different and transforming our entire lives at any moment through a state of no thought. In short, the moment we stop thinking is when our happiness begins. A young monk, M-O-N-K, and the empty boat a Zen story about how thinking is the cause of our own suffering. So we're going to read a little story. A long time ago, a young Zen monk lived in a small monastery in a forest near a small lake. A few senior monks occupied the monastery, while the rest were newcomers and still had much to learn. The monks had many obligations in the monastery, but one of the most important ones was their daily routine, where they had to sit down, close their eyes, and meditate in silence for hours at a time. After each meditation, they had to report their progress to their mentor. The young monk had difficulty staying focused during his meditation practice for various reasons, which made him very mad. After the young monk reported his progress to his mentor, the elder monk asked a simple question with a hidden lesson. "Do you know what is really making you angry?" The young monk replied, "Well, usually, as soon as I close my eyes and meditate, someone is moving around and I can't focus. I get agitated that someone is disturbing me even though they know that I'm meditating. How can they not be more considerate? And then, when I close my eyes again and try to focus, a cat or a small animal might brush past and disturb me again. By this point, even when the wind blows and the tree branches make noise, I get angry. If that is not enough, the birds keep on chirping and I can't seem to find any peace in this place." The elder monk simply pointed out to his pupil, "I see that you become angrier with each interruption you encounter. This is exactly the opposite of what the point of your task is when meditating. You should find a way not to get angry with people, animals, or anything around you that disturbs you during your task." After their consultation, the young monk went out of the monastery and looked around to find a place that would be quieter so that he could meditate peacefully. He found such a place at the shore of the lake that is nearby. He brought his mat, sat down, and started meditating. But soon a flock of birds splashed down in the lake near where the monk was meditating. Hearing their noise, the monk opened his eyes to see what was happening. Although the bank of the lake was quieter than the monastery, things would still disturb his peace, and he got angry again. Even though he didn't find the peace he was looking for, he kept returning to the lake. Then one day, the monk saw a boat tied at the end of a small pier. And right then, an idea hit him. Why don't I take the boat, row it down to the middle of the lake, and meditate there? In the middle of the lake, there will be nothing to disturb me. He rowed the boat to the middle of the lake and started meditating. As he had expected, there was nothing in the middle of the lake to disturb him, and he was able to meditate the whole day. At the end of the day, he returned to the monastery. This continued on for a few days, and the monk was thrilled that he'd finally found a place to meditate in peace. He didn't feel angry, and he could calmly continue the meditation practice. On the third day, the monk sat in the boat, rowed to the middle of the lake, and started meditating again. A few minutes later, he heard water splashing and felt the boat was rocking. He started getting upset that even in the middle of the lake, someone or something was disturbing him. Opening his eyes, he saw a boat heading straight towards him. He shouted, "Steer your boat away or you will hit my boat." But the other boat kept coming directly at him and was just a few feet away. He yelled again, but nothing changed, and so the incoming boat hit the monk's boat. Now he was furious. He screamed, "Who are you and why have you hit my boat in the middle of this vast lake?" There was no answer. This made the young monk even angrier. He stood up to see who was in the boat, and to his surprise, he found no one was in the boat. The boat had probably drifted along in the breeze and had bumped into the monk's boat. The monk found his anger dissipating. It was just an empty boat. There was no one to get angry at. At that moment, he remembered his mentor's question, "Do you know what is really making you angry?" And then wondered, it's not other people, situations, or circumstances. It's not the empty boat, but my reaction to it that causes my anger. All the people or situations that make me upset and angry are like the empty boat. They don't have the power to make me angry without my own reaction. Or another way of putting it would be also without your own permission. The monk then rowed the boat back to the shore. He returned to the monastery and started meditating along with the other monks. There were still noises and disturbances, but the monk treated them as the empty boat and continued meditating peacefully. When the elder monk saw the difference, he said to the young monk, "I see that you have found what is really making you angry and overcome that." That's really actually something that you could apply to your everyday life, because there will be times that, for example, say that you're sitting in your living room and you're watching something and somebody's car alarm goes off, or you're out in the backyard trying to just enjoy peace and quiet and there's a dog that won't stop barking. It's not the dog or the car that's making you angry. You're allowing it to get to you, something that you can't control, something that isn't even doing it purposely to disturb you. They're not, we tend to look at everything as a personal attack, I think. That person cut me off just to be a jerk. This person is being loud just to disturb me. We tend to go there and take things personally and wonder why people can't think the way we think sometimes. Why can't they be more mindful? Why can't they be more careful? Why can't they take this into consideration? But it with people, a lot of times, it's that it's not even dawning on them, or perhaps it doesn't bother them, so they don't realize it might bother another person. And the point of that is not to go and make sure that these people and things don't bother you. The point of it is to master not letting these things bother you, not letting these everyday little annoyances anger you and upset you and frustrate you. And that is something that is really something you have to work at. All right, chapter 3, why do we think? And here is a quote. I think every chapter is going to begin with a quote. "I think and think and think. I've thought myself out of happiness 1,000,000 times, but never once into it." Jonathan Safran Foer. As humans, we have evolved to develop a sophisticated ability to rationalize, analyze, and think because it simply helps us survive. Our minds do an incredible job of keeping us alive, but it does not allow us to thrive. It is concerned solely with our safety and survival, not fulfillment or joy. The mind's job is to alert us of potential dangers in our environment that may threaten our lives. It does its job so well that not only will it scan our immediate surroundings for threats, but it will even reference our backlog of past experiences to create hypothetical scenarios and predict what it thinks could be future potential dangers based on our memories. None of this is wrong by any means. The mind is simply doing what it was designed to do. When we don't understand that its only duty is to help us survive, then we will get angry and frustrated with it. All conflict is derived from an innocent misunderstanding. Our mind's duty is to keep us alive. Our consciousness's duty is to help us feel fulfilled. Your soul is the reason why you're even on this journey in the first place, to find peace, love, and joy for yourself. Your mind has done an amazing job at what it was made to do, but now you may relieve it of its job because we no longer live in the wild where death could be right around the corner in a bush. If we keep using our minds, we will constantly stay in a state of fight or flight, anxiety, fear, frustration, depression, anger, resentment, and all negative emotions because the mind thinks everything is a threat to our very existence. If you want to be free, happy, peaceful, and full of love, then you will need to let go of listening only to your mind and go beyond it by tuning into something much greater that will help you not just to survive, but to thrive. All right, let's take a look at chapter 4 because we're at about 20 minutes. I think I will stop there because I'm going to try to keep these videos at the 20 to 25 minute mark, maybe less than that, just to make them a little more accessible when I upload them. It's a lot to listen to. It's a lot to ask of people. Our attention spans aren't that great. So unless you're really into something, I don't think people like to invest too much time, and you can always come back to it. But let's face it, we forget there's a million other things to watch on here and to do in life. So I'm going to stop right there. We'll read chapter 4 and chapter 5 in the next video. That will be thoughts versus thinking. And if we can only feel what we're thinking, don't we need to think positively? Those are the titles of the next 2 chapters. So we will go ahead and stop right there. And I thank you very much for joining me. I love you all very much. And until next time, as always and as usual, please take care of yourself. Please take care of those around you. I love you all. I will see you again for the next 2 chapters in our new book. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.